Well, welcome everyone to this second podcast. I'm your host, I'm Nigel, and my co-host is
Claire.
And welcome. So, how have you been? You had a good week?
I've been really good. Yeah.
Anything different, amazing, unusual?
Different, amazing. Well, yes, it has actually, because last Monday I needed more work.
Uh-huh.
And I'm a tutor, so I needed more children to tutor. Mm-hmm. And my daughter said to me, how much work do you need extra on, to make ends meet, if you like? And I said, I need to double the amount that I'm doing. And within 2 days, I'm overwhelmed with work. I've certainly doubled it and it's still coming in. So, God is just amazing.
That's brilliant. That is wonderful. That is wonderful.
Yeah. So how about you?
I was going to say much of the same, but it's never much of this. It's constantly changing. Mm-hmm. For people that don't know, I'm a business consultant, and I am developing or have developed a different strategy for businesses, and it's that all the information's online on salesexchange.co.uk, and there's just kind of been this constant revelation or exposure to me that what I've been thinking and doing and planning and creating, there's been a parallel to this, which is investment companies and businesses and organisations know that there's a massive problem, and we've got the solution to this massive problem, and it's a bit. It's kind of surprising. It's so big. Mm-hmm. I mean, just absolutely massive. I've been in business for nearly 40 years, and I've created something that every single B2B business desperately needs and has always been looking for, and I've done it. And so it's kind of just taking this a stage at a time and doing some work here and stuff here, and we do live shows and podcasts and lots of content and so on. Mm. And it feels like it's coming to a conclusion, it's coming to an end. But I was really surprised to see this investment report that said exactly the same. And I'm going, that's what I've done. Mm-hmm. I've got all that going. So we'll just see how things go with that. But other than that, it's been a very what's the word? It's been a good start to the year, because we said that after we'd finished all that food, that we were going to go and say, look, we've got to do time out on this. Not for any, I'm not sitting here massively overweight or anything like that. But it was just, the whole kind of Christmas thing is like, do you know what? I've just eaten so much, but also being quite static or sedentary because of the work that I'm doing. And so Liz and I said, right, well, we're gonna just do one meal a day, and we're gonna walk every day now as well. We used to walk every day when we lived near Watford, and so we are day 9. Mm-hmm. So we've done that. So one meal a day and a walk every day,
and it's going well, hey?
Yeah, I'm hungry right now. I'm not going to lie. I'm hungry. but the thing is that it's part and parcel of the whole thing that I suppose we do. It's because we looked at information about and read information about fasting, and it mentions in the Bible when you fast, not if, but when. And we did some study and watched some stuff, and it was the whole fasting thing has been going on for centuries, and it's regenerative. So you think you're starving hungry, but it's regenerative at a cellular level, and it's really, really good for you. So reducing what we eat and letting our bodies burn it up properly, called keto. So it's not just a keto diet, but it's called keto. So it's been going well. So I'll be back to my former self at some stage. But I think really kind of, as we move forward with doing these podcasts, I was looking at it the other day and thinking that it would be sensible to have a more, I say more of a structure to it, because we could sit there and talk all day and all night, and you know, once you get going, and there's always the initial 5 or 10 minutes, and then you kind of settle down into it and go, yeah, it's okay. This is not too bad. But what we want to do is look to be different to other podcasts. I think. And part and parcel of this living in faith is to be in a position to communicate what it is and what it isn't, because that's also an important part of it. And so we've kind of had tentatively looked at what we could do, and we've done the introductions. We said hello. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got 8 things here. So so number one, we did the hello. And kind of the intro. The other thing is our foundation, which is about being born again believers, and there is a foundation to that, which is about repentance, forgiveness, righteousness, and so on, and understanding about being Teflon when it comes to sin. We want to touch on the news, anything that's come up that's particularly piqued our interest. Then we want to look at a Bible study. It's nothing massively long, but we just want to kind of talk about it. And I think today we'll kind of talk around that, what we could do, what plans have we got. You know, we're not intending to do maybe not any massive Bible study today or not. I don't know. I don't know if you've got anything lined up or anything like that.
Well, I've always got something
if
needed.
So we can do something like that. I've just lost my space now. And then, where is it? Here we go. And then I've got this thing. Some listeners will think, oh, here we go. I've got this. It's down the rabbit hole. Now, the thing is that if people have been following the news, it talks about conspiracy theories, and all these people are going, wait a second, all these people that were being slated for being conspiracy theorists have all been proven right. Here we go. It's a Freudian slip there. Have all been proven right. And so it's just to talk about, I suppose, in a way, what I think, you know, what you think, what I think. Some of them are nonsense. Some of them are very interesting. Some of them join dots. Some of them are meaningful. Some of them are not. And are they important? Depends. But it exists in this world, and especially if we're talking about being a born again believer, believing in Jesus, dying for Jesus and rising with him, and knowing that God is our Father. And then someone calls me a conspiracy theorist. It's like, you're kidding me. You don't think believing in Jesus and all of that is you could say strange enough, and then you want to call me a conspiracy theorist because I think something about the physical structure of the earth or whatever. So anyway, that's just by the way.
Yeah, well, I saw a good T-shirt the other day, and it said Noah was a conspiracy theorist until it started to rain.
100%. 100%. Then we've got Bible questions. Mm-hmm. Because lots of people have questions about the Bible. Yeah, that would be
really good, I think, getting to hear what other people perhaps, have questions about. And
and the thing is, we've got a kind of a bit of a structure here, because because of the website Standard, on the Standard I've got 2 sections on it. One is just articles. Mm-hmm. And under resources, it's got a Q&A. And so the Q&A are obviously the questions, and they're my answers to them. And I'm perfectly open and expectant for someone to say, well, actually, I see what you mean there, but I think you might be wrong, or I think you could add this or change this or do whatever. And I've got a thing on there about flat earth, and someone told me not to have children.
Oh. Everyone's entitled to their opinion.
It's an opinion, isn't it? It's a view. But the thing is that the only thing that's actually important is one's understanding and living out of one's faith. That's what's important. Whether you think it's flat, square, an oblate pear, or what, it's irrelevant. We then got publications, websites, books, articles, that kind of thing, which is about the things that we've done. It could be the things that we've read, not just the things that we've done, but people that don't know. Claire has written how many? 6, 8, 9 books, 10 books, lots of books and publications.
Don't count.
Oh, you should.
Should I?
Yeah, you got to tell them. Say, well, we've got this one about themes and books, and yeah. And the thing about it is we want to talk about them and get you to, because they're there to help people, and so they need to be talked about, and people can go out and buy them or download them, do whatever is whatever the score is, because the point is that we wouldn't do this podcast if the intention wasn't to help and equip people. And when there's more than just some weekly podcast of a couple of people having a chat about God, that's not nothing wrong with that, but there needs to be something a bit more tangible to it. And so the websites and publications and information and so on is there, so something kind of like the conversation can continue when we say, see you next week.
Yeah.
And then the last thing, that was number 7. Number 8 is next week's show. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of and so what we'll do, we'll work out where we're going with this, and we'll kind of talk around things, and we'll go back to the beginning in a second. But I think that's what I've written down so far, and it'll change. There's nothing wrong with changing it. And if we think that there should be another segment that can go in there, or if people think they want something else in there, let us know. Write in, email, do whatever. Tell us what you think. Be nice, and and just say, could you include X, Y, or Z? And that's the whole point of this, is that if we go we'll go back. I tell you what we'll do. We'll go back to the beginning, or say to the beginning, to number 2, which is about foundation. And from a born again believer's perspective, why? Or rather, from a worldly perspective or a religious perspective, why do it? Why get baptized? The consensus is, well, if you get baptized as a child, doesn't matter. You don't need to get baptized again. It's all a load of nonsense. The Catholic will say, well, what's his name? Who got he got all his family, but got Peter went and saw him. He was the centurion, or
Roman centurion. Yeah.
And so Peter goes over there and says, I've been told to go and get you to come here, and Peter turns up and he baptised all his household. Mm-hmm. But children weren't in the household, were they? Not in the Roman times. And so you would get baptised if you believed.
Yeah, you've got to believe.
And you have to, and you understand about repentance. And I think that this is in a way, this is the absolute critical, fundamental understanding. It starts at this point, that people do bad things, wrong things. People feel ashamed. People feel guilty, and all these different emotions that people feel. And they perceive that nothing can take that away, because the world continues to condemn you. However, God doesn't. Not if you repent. You go, well, actually, I did this wrong. I'm not going to do it again. But I still feel really crap because everything around me is like pointing the finger at me. So it doesn't matter what you do. Even if you were a murderer or a very successful bank robber, if you get to a point and go, I shouldn't have done that, I'm not going to do that again, I'm sorry. The next point is, well, who do you say that to? You could even say it to your victims, and the victims go, I don't care what you say. Yeah. You know, I want you strung up. But the bottom line is that there is a God that will forgive. Therefore, you have to, if you are genuine about repentance, God is genuine about forgiving you. And I kind of look at it in my terminology. The mechanics of that is you go, I'm not going to do it again. I'm repenting from every single bad thing I did in the past. I'm going to get baptized as an acknowledgement that I belong to Jesus. I acknowledge what he did on the cross. I acknowledge that he's the Son of God. I believe that infrastructure, that whole process, that whole spiritual foundation that exists for everybody, I believe it. And so I'm going to get baptized, which is an acknowledgement and declaration to the dark side that exists on this earth. Because if you believe that God's the good side, then there has to be a balance to that, which is the dark side. And therefore, that's why you get baptized, and that's your covenant with God, Jesus as your brother in Christ. And so your sins are forgiven. Now, lots of people kind of get that. But what they don't get is you've now got the nature of Jesus who died for us, sorry. If you've got his nature, it means his nature doesn't sin. And therefore, he has a clean slate. I mean, Douglas mentioned this. Introduce Douglas. He's not here, but you introduced...
Douglas is my husband.
So Douglas mentioned this the other day and said, you've been given a new slate. You've been given the slate of Jesus, which means it's a clean slate. And you can't write on it. So you have to process this. People have to process this. You can't write on that slate, which means you don't get charged with sin anymore. Satan can't accuse you of sin anymore. And I suppose the Bible's there for lots of reasons. It is for everyone, but you've got to be committed to it. And some people don't understand it. That's kind of as it's supposed to be. You weren't supposed to understand it, certain people, because you had no intention of understanding it and no intention of following through. So it'll dumbfound the wise.
Yeah.
So if you, as Paul says it in Romans, is it Romans? I don't know.
Could be.
That says that it's unprofitable and not what's the word? We said it the other day. It doesn't say. It doesn't explain it as I've just explained it.
Yeah, okay. It's not an edifying.
That was the word.
Or helpful. So
not edifying or helpful.
Yeah.
Meaning there are things that we go and do that are not edifying and not helpful. In a previous life, people would have said that's a sin. Now they've become unedifying and unhelpful. And I've seen and heard and witnessed people that have got baptized have not been told this information. They've had their little party when they got baptized, and they've gone straight back into feeling guilt and shame and all the other things that go with it. And they keep preaching on the prodigal son. They keep preaching on, Jesus will forgive, God will forgive you as far as it is from the east as it is from the west. And what was the baptism about? So being a born again believer isn't, and people call themselves, but I'm a born again believer, been baptized as an adult. I knew what I was doing. And they're still living in shame and grief and fear and all these different things. In
fact, they're worse off than an unbeliever because they've got this constant expectation and I don't know, just this I don't know, sermons, or just when they're reading the Bible not understanding it, they feel constantly guilty because they think as a believer they ought to know better and be better. Yeah. And because they can't, they're in a worse place than an unbeliever.
It's a tricky one. It's not a tricky one. It is for lots of people, but that's why we're doing this. So if you, so So you're listening to this. We have one listener. Yeah, that's how I look at this. We've got one listener, and you're it. And there you are. You've got your headphones on, and you're listening to Claire and I having a chat together. So, and the point is that if you think to how you feel, how you think about being a born again believer, is it like I've just said, that you're like Teflon now, sin can't stick? And if you don't feel like that, great. You've now got an opportunity to. There's a lot in this for you to have a complete revelation now, and live how you're expected to live, how God expects you to live. And I think with the expectation of God is to follow what the Bible says. Mm-hmm. That's it. End of story. We can go now, and we'll see you next week. But that's it. It's just do what it says.
Yeah.
And there's this thing about news, and I'm going to come on to I think what we should do is talk about this every week. For as long as we do this, at the beginning of every single podcast, is to talk about this, because different people will tune in, or whatever it's called. Different people will listen and will listen to this, and not everyone will have heard what we've said. And telling someone to go back and listen to the first one it's like no, I don't like that. I did say it last week. It doesn't matter. That was only the first one. So to kind of make this a staple part of what we talk about, that this is about what being a believer is all about, and that the only thing that we can be expectant of God to do for us to an extent is to help us understand what the Bible says, and to live it. That there isn't anything else. He doesn't expect us to be superstars, multi-billionaires, nothing like that. He just expects us to understand it. And once you do understand it, that's about getting the peace, understanding God, the peace that He left with us, Jesus left with us. So this thing about news and certain things in the news, I listening to this to a short YouTube yesterday, and this guy was saying, you've got to be wary of some of these massive conferences that are out. One of them being, I think it was Passion 2023. And the guy that was, I'm not going to do the guy that I listened to any justice here, but I think it was someone, Giorgio or Giglio or someone like that, who was the organizer of Passion 2023. And all these people turning up to this massive event, and they've got all these speakers, and they're all like the really serious prosperity gospel preachers, and all the serious Christian bands that once you know, you go, well, actually they're not Christian, they're not saying and doing the right thing here. And he said, you've really got to be wary of this, because you've got 50,000 people turning up to this event. And they were listening to these interviews, and people said, I want heaven to come down. I want heaven to come down to earth. I want heaven to do this. I want heaven to do that. I want God to do this. I want God to do that. And blah, 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 blah. It's like, just take the most repetitive word out of that. I want. Instead of saying, I kind of need to read the Bible and just do what God says. I want this. I want heaven to come down. And these people were saying that the messaging coming from here is to lead people astray. And the people that were the organisers were kissing old Popey's ring. And it's like, it's Catholic. Catholic organised events. And it's like, people don't know how to discern this.
Yeah. There's something about giving something to people that they can never actually reach, because then they're always wanting it, and they'll always come back for something else, for that, won't they? Whereas when you say to them, do you know what? the Lord's already given you everything you need. It's already in you.
Yeah.
And all you've got to do now is to learn how to live in that, which is living in faith.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you know, you still need to keep coming back. You still need to meet together. The Bible says, you know, don't give up meeting together, especially as times get difficult, because you need one another to encourage one another, to stir one another up. But yeah, to keep coming back all the time for something that really, it's just words, isn't it? What's that mean? I want heaven to come down. What's that going to do?
Oh, and I want to be on fire.
Oh, okay.
I want to be on fire for Christ, on fire for Jesus. And this guy was saying, but Jesus doesn't want you to be on fire. Point one. Point two, show me where it says that in the Bible. Anywhere, apart from hell.
Well, if all they mean is that they want to be passionate about Jesus, they want to do what he wants for them, just do it.
just do it. Yeah.
You know?
And I just find that this sharing of Christianese.
Yeah.
And wanting to make out they want to be holy, they want to be this, something, but they're not doing themselves any favours. And of course, if you go back to the basics, which is the being born again, if you're born again and you understand what the score is, you won't be going back, like you said, you won't be going back again and again and again. Someone travelled 11 hours by plane and 11 hours by car to get to this Passion event.
Wow.
And it's like, you know, I get up in the morning and think, I love doing well. I love where I am and what I'm doing. I don't need to travel halfway around the world. What's that all about? And this is the point. You know, people. You know, we've all met people that seem to float around. Trying to be nice, but they kind of float around there, and they're not even really in touch with reality, you know. And they go to church or churches or whatever, and they're not really connected. But to know what we are, where we are, who we are, and to live that's really. It's really quite something, especially when you're looking out and realising what people haven't got. And that's kind of demonstrated in their expectations of God and expectations of my religion or my faith or whatever. You should be this, that and the other. I mean, like this thing with the post office. If you're listening in the UK, you know what I'm talking about probably, but if you're in another country, the post office... in circa 2000 or just before, had some new software installed called Horizon, provided by Fujitsu from Japan, and it was supposed to work for the whole of the post office, including the sub-post offices and all the little connected to shops around the country. There were flaws with it, there were faults with it that would show massive amounts of money being owed to the post office, and rather than look into it, they prosecuted nigh on 1,000 people over a 20-year period, 15-year period, or whatever. And it's all coming out now that the likes of Tony Blair knew about it, was told about it, and his advisors said, oh, don't do anything about that. That might upset the Japanese. Oh, really? So he agreed. So he can't tell me, well, my advisor said X, Y, and Z. No, you could have said get stuffed. You're an ex-barrister, for crying out loud. So rather than sort out the problem, to keep the Japanese sweet, they bankrupted 1,000 people. Oh, nice. So then that's Blair, that was the government then Theresa May's in. Or Cameron and May. But this has been going on for like 20 years, so they all knew about it. And so they all did the same thing. Ignore. A film comes out. And the film has come out. Everybody's absolutely up in arms and disgusted with it. And now all the politicians are getting behind it. Oh, right, we've got to sort this out now. Now, when you look at the two main main players in this, the woman that was the running or head of the post office at the time, and one of the main project managers. The main project manager was very influential within his local church, and the woman who was the CEO of the post office was being lined up to be ordained as a bishop in the Church of England. So here we are, got these two people who have absolutely annihilated 1,000 families, and people are going, why did God let this all happen? Got these, so the perpetrators are in church, doing sermons, telling people how they should behave, what they should do, how they should interpret the Bible. So it's pretty clear that there are people that are around that are not got your best interest at heart when it comes to faith. They are players. They are people that do this religiously. And so this is the one part of it. So people will blame God. You've got people in the church, gives the church a bad name. So people blame God for it, or blame God for allowing this to happen to these people, to be bankrupted and so on and so on. You've got Stephen Fry. Blood cancer or bone cancer in children. What kind of capricious God would blah, 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 would do that, and so on and so on. It's like, yeah, mate, but you haven't read the Bible. Everybody thinks you're so clever. And indeed, you are clever in lots of areas, but not in the area of reading and understanding the Bible. Even when Jordan Peterson has a chat with him, he's up for blaming God. He's got a big stage, a big platform, which he uses to go and blame God. But it's like, it's actually, mate, it's not God. He didn't do it. No. There's a dark side to this life on earth. And whether there are people who put themselves forward to be nominated or ordained as bishops, or not just bishops, but anyone that wants to put themselves forward, why should they be holy people? Irrespective of their titles, why should they be holy people? And when you've got someone like Stephen Fry that gives voice to, let's blame God for everything, you go, well, no, you can't do that. You can say what you like. I mean, God's big enough; He'll take it on the chin. Thanks very much. And you don't believe in God. God believes in you, and that's all there is to it. So what? You are who? and I find it that the things that we see in the news, and people are really quick to want to blame God and to have issues with faith and get faith mixed up with religion. And they're actually very different.
Very different. Yeah.
And that's why that's why I'm up for doing this, which is to say that there's got to be just an understanding. Even and there's this long journey once you understand about getting baptized, and even if you are baptized and start to understand what it says and where it says it, the different when you reread, whether it's Colossians or various parts of the New Testament, and you realise that that's actually what it says, that you are forgiven, that you are, you're like Teflon, and it says it, but it's not promoted.
Yeah. And when you understand that you cannot sin, you do not sin anymore. In that passage in Colossians that you're referring to, in Colossians 2, where it talks about how our flesh has been nailed to the cross, our sinful flesh, and the handwriting of requirements, the law has been nailed to the cross, it's all gone out of the way. Then it goes on to say that, that how God made, what are the words? Thank you, a spectacle of the enemy in that. And so that is the way, as you talk about Teflon, coated, that is the way that we remain safe and apart from the enemy's ability to mess our lives up.
Yeah.
And so when you're looking at the world and you're saying, well, what a mess, where is God? You know, if you want to have that protection, if you want to have God's hand in your life, then acknowledge what Jesus has done for you and then walk and live in that.
Yeah.
Because then you'll be, you know, in that place of God being in control of your life and not the enemy, not Satan.
Yeah.
And so then you can start to affect change in your environment.
Yeah.
It's no good looking at the whole world or somebody over in Africa or something and saying, you know, well, where is God?
Yeah.
If you're concerned and you want him, get him for yourself.
Yeah.
And then begin to live the life he's asked us to live here on earth.
Yeah.
And then make the changes personally, among your family, among your friends, your neighbours, people you work with. And then you're making a real difference, you know.
Because I think so. I don't know whether it says it in there. I don't know. But you're responsible for your own salvation.
Oh yeah.
Nobody else is responsible. And you know that there are so many misconceptions and lies that happen within churches across the board, from your salvation to tithing, to your money and what you should or shouldn't be doing with it. God's not short of a few quid. He doesn't need your money. But the thing is, if you're going to go to a church, I haven't been backwards in putting it out because it's on the website. The church is no different to a local community centre that you pay subscription for. You pay your subs. I mean, it could be the British Legion. It could be church. It doesn't make any difference really. It's just a place where you go. You get tea and coffee afterwards, and you listen to someone talk about some stuff. Because when you leave, you don't follow it, and you're not born again. So what? It's not going to get you into heaven, yeah, because you're not born again. So it's community centre, and in most cases they're after your money because they want to keep the lights on. They want their salaries. They want to keep the lights on. If it's the big organisation like CRB or Catholics, money goes into to central office. Ultimately, when my dad was around, he did some work with the. It'll come back to me, but this was up in Ely, and he was looking at the Vincent de Paul, and he was looking through some of the information there, and he saw the bank account of the local. It could have been the bishop or so, I don't know who it was. It's a little while ago. And he said, "You do realise that we're here to help the poor because of course, yes, of course." He says, "Do you know that there's like 300 grand in the bank in the account, or 30 million or 3 million in the account? That's a massive amount of money." And he went, "No, there isn't, is there?" He goes, "Yeah, look. Got a bank account here." Crumbs, fancy that. 3 months later, he had the whole place redecorated, top to bottom. It's like flock wallpaper, you know, that kind of stuff. Right, okay. Let's get some money for the poor. No, do that later. I've got some lovely bit of wallpaper there. Whatever they call him. Your Grace. My wallpaper is more important. So the thing is, if you've got to look at it through certain lenses at the end of the day, because it's not. It's made out to be something that it's not. It is a lie, and there's only two sides in this, and there's no fence. And if Jesus says you can only get into the kingdom of heaven if you're born again of the Spirit, I'd go with what Jesus says, really, kind of.
Yeah.
Just, it's like, which bit don't you get? And this is, and so, you know, we do this. We're born again. The enemy knows we have a covenant with Jesus. The enemy knows he can't touch us. He can try and have a go, but
he can try.
But the bottom line is that that's only through lies. You go, well, no, I'm squeaky clean here.
That's right.
Thanks, mate. Toddle off, fox. Off you go. And I think the more people that grasp this, and you know, I would love for people to listen to this and go, do you know, I never realised that. Maybe I should have a look into that. Oh, I forgot. I had a woman contact me through the Standard, and she'd lost her job, and this and that and the other had happened. Load of stuff had happened. She was a teacher, and she said, I've come across your website. She called because the phone number's on there,
right?
0800 number's on there. And she found out. I said, so tell me what. Yep. She said, where's God? You know, God's not here. You know, he was there before, and I just can't seem to be connected with God and so on. I said, well, he hasn't gone anywhere. I mean, he's not gone on holiday or anything. That's right. And she went, well, and so we had this long chat, and she said that she'd been working with kids and so on, and special needs kids and so on, and she'd lost the job, and it had come to an end, and she didn't know what she needed to do and so on. And I said, well, what is it you'd like to do? What's on your, I don't like using this word, but on your heart, because although God does put the desires on your heart, but there's a lot of Christianese around that. And she said, well, actually, I'd really like to do DIY stuff. I said, really? That's great. And I could hear in her voice, she was same age, maybe a bit older than me, probably older than me.
Right.
I said, well, that's brilliant. I said, what? And we talked about it, and I said, the thing is, you're a believer, and so you can go to different churches and meet at the coffee mornings, give out some cards, say, this is what I do. And there'll be other people of the same age or older who'll go, thank goodness for that. I don't want some young lad coming in, walking through my house, eyeing everything up, thinking, because you could... It's one of those problems, people come and nick stuff. People next door had that. They got their windows done and they came back and turned the place over. And she was like, I was thinking that. I was thinking I could do that. I said, so you've got if you know about sanding down and you've got your primer undercoat and gloss coat and top coat, and you can do this and do that, and you say, oh no, I've got drills, I've got this, that, and the other. I said, well, and don't forget your caulk. And she went, right, you're right, yep. She said, well, actually, this morning I started making a list. It's great. Anyway, came to the end of the conversation, she said, I've got this screen on my computer at the moment. I'm looking at it now, and it's to get some business cards done. And I didn't know if I should do it or not. I'm definitely going to do it. Absolutely good. And she sent me a really nice message afterwards and said, what a great conversation, and it was great, and she's got the print cards coming, and she hadn't actually written down caulk, so she's going to go out and get some caulk as well. And she's going to go and do it. And so the point is that if you... We all need to be reminded. And I think that the thing with the born again thing is, it's not even so much being reminded, it's being told for the first time with a lot of people. Yeah. And that's what I find really, it's really sad, really scary, really great, and so on, because there's, people out there talk about being out there to win souls for Christ. It's like, well, how about just doing a really easy thing and telling them what the truth is in the first place? And they can go, oh, do you know what? I was never told that. And away they go. Happy little souls, But I think that, it has to be a constant message.
Yeah, it does.
Because if it's, if he's actively not talked about, I wonder why that is.
Mm.
And if you want to, the cynic in me says, well, actually, isn't it quite sensible in respect of the enemy to get people to not talk about it, so therefore they can go and get baptised, they can still live crappy lives, even though they think they've got baptised and they're not actually living it.
Yeah.
So they'll live a rubbish life, and so we can pull them away, we can do this, we can influence them, because they don't know how to, I'm not quoting Joel Osteen, they can live their best lives now.
Yeah.
I just think it's sad. However, there's a war on. Yeah, there's we might go to sleep and do 8 hours. Satan doesn't go and have a kip. He's constantly on everybody's case. If he can.
I mean, I need to hear it every day. I need to preach to myself every day about what this truth is. And I can tell even from my own family, every day it's somebody will say something or whatever, and you have to remind them again, this is who you are, this is what the Lord says about you. So we're being bombarded with rubbish, and so if we're not hearing it, the other voices will take over, won't they?
Yeah, and it's a really big deal. I mean, so with our walk today, we're talking about, so the whole thing about injections and the whole COVID thing and everything else. It's like, so now they're going, I didn't. I don't know where the social distancing came from. It just seemed to come out of nowhere. Oh yeah, it is. It's all agreed now. It was a leak from Wuhan initially, and oh yeah, and all the sudden deaths. Oh yeah, and so people think that governments have got their backs, and they haven't. People are the sudden deaths. So the war out there is significant. The players are all over the place. Government does not have your back, but God does.
That's right.
And that's what people don't. It's seeing this correlation that God good, government bad. But oh look, they're trying to kill you. Yes, and therefore, if by reaching out and looking to hold on to God and what all those promises are about, that rubbish that those politicians think that they can dish out to everybody, it becomes meaningless. And for us as believers, just to share with each other, to say, look, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what they do, it doesn't matter what they say. Our faith, our strength and everything else is in God, not in them. It's not in what they say. I think it's in, is it Matthew when it talks about, is it Matthew or is it John, where Jesus goes into the wilderness?
Yeah, can't remember which one.
So he goes into the wilderness, and Satan there, and he meets Satan at the end of 40 days, having turned the water into wine at the wedding in Cana. I've got to share my view on this. I think that the family knew what Jesus could do, because he pitches up with his mum and his mates, his new mates, to this wedding. So the wine runs out, and his mum says, as in Mary, his mum says, that was for those that didn't know. His mum says, sort out the drinks. Meaning, get them from somewhere. Yeah? Sort out the drinks. And he says, Mum, come on. I'm not doing this now. And she says, Bubbler, do as you're told. Listen to what he says. Get on with it. So he changes those water jugs, which are full of, I think it was like 40 litres each or something like that,
huge,
massive.
Yeah.
And he changes them into wine, and the groom's or the bride's father pitches up and says, wow, you've saved the best wine. Now, lots of people look at this it's really it's all about faith, and it's all about saving the best fruits till last. And I'm looking at it going, no. His mum said, get the drinks in, sort the beers out, But she knew what he could do. But
she did.
This wasn't. He hadn't healed anybody by then. It was like sort out the wine.
Mm.
So I kind of look at it with a smile on my face. I'm not genuflecting or anything like that and going, oh, this is amazing. It's just like, it's a great story.
Mm.
A great story. So, and I don't know why I was going with that. but at the end of the day, the people that are out there that are in government and so on do not have our interest at heart. And our job is to focus on God. It's got to be God, because that's where we're going. We're not going to go anywhere that with play a harp with the government. It's not going to happen. The government have no interest in us. That's where I was going with it. So he then goes and meets Satan, or rather Satan meets him in the desert, in the wilderness. And you've got the thing about turn the stone into bread, bow down before me, and I will give you all of these kingdoms. Who takes them to the top of the temple. The kingdoms are governments. And unless people don't understand, Satan runs every government on earth. Now, Jesus didn't have any fisticuffs with him and say, no, they don't belong to you. They're all mine. He never said that. Mm. Because Jesus knew, right the way back to Adam and Eve, that the lease for earth had been given to Satan.
That's right.
And the other part of it is that lots of people don't perceive that Satan is in prison on earth. He hasn't got a little spaceship flying around somewhere. Yeah, does not exist. He is in prison in the earth. He's not going anywhere. Mm. He's never going anywhere. This is it. So the combination of those things, that he runs the joint, what he says goes, he rules every government, and we're now in it but not of it. We're in the world, not of the world. And that's what we want to keep getting across to people in terms of living in faith, because it's pretty bad out there. Yeah. Oh yeah, bad things happen. Bad things happen to me, bad things happen to everyone at some time or other, but we're in it but we're not of it. We have another home.
And there is a way to navigate all of this. I mean, Jesus asked, Jesus didn't ask. Jesus prayed that the Lord, God would not take his disciples out of this earth, but he would protect them in it. And so there is definitely a protection. There is a way of living in this earth, but not being of it. And that is actually our protection in that place. I was just looking at the war that the Germans are expecting with Russia, and how they're mobilising or trying to gather their men together for an army that's going to be ready for Russia to attack. And Sweden have already said that they need their people to sign up ready for war. And so they're seeing it on the horizon. They're getting ready for it, and it won't just be those two countries. There'll be more. Yep. It might even be our country later that has to go through this. But Jesus, he said that don't be afraid when you hear these. That there is a war, that there's a rumour of war. Don't be afraid of that, because these things have to happen.
Yep.
And then he says, when you see these things begin to happen, look up, because your redemption draws nigh. Yeah. And so if he's there saying, look, these things are going to happen, but don't be afraid. Why is he saying don't be afraid? Yeah. It's if we were all going to end up in a terrible place as a result of that, then he wouldn't say don't be afraid. Yeah. Because you should be afraid if that's the case. And so that there is a deliverance, there is a protection when we trust in God, and that's what you've been saying throughout this whole thing. Really, we have to trust in Him only, not in a church, not in governments, not in NHS or anything else. We can't, because they cannot meet our needs.
No.
And they might say they do, they might try to. I mean, you look at the NHS and it's broken, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then the doctors are on strike, so it's going to be even more broken. Well, they're not on strike now, but they have been. So they, even if they wanted to be the answer for you, they can't be.
No.
And there is an answer, and that is the saving power of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And that word salvation, it means help, it means victory, health, prosperity, welfare, peace, all of these things that we crave and need, even just to be alive.
Yeah.
And Jesus is the answer. That's what Jesus means, or Yeshua, whatever, however you want to look at his name, it means God, my salvation.
Yeah.
And so that's what we believe in when we come into this faith. We believe that he is our salvation, and therefore we're trusting him, not anybody else.
Yeah.
We can't point the finger and say, well, look at them, they're no good. Look at them, they've let us down. No, look at God.
Yeah.
See what he's going to do for you. Trust him.
Yeah.
Allow him to be God in your situation. Because if we don't give him permission to move in our situation, he can't. So it has to be us saying, I'm taking my hands off of all of this. I can't trust anybody or anything, but I know I can trust you. And you read the word and you look at the promises that are in there and really believe him for it. And when you believe, it's in peace. It's not in a striving, I really need God to help me. No, just trust him.
And this is the big deal, I think, is church, but church as it explains it in the Bible, not that building down the road, but house church. And we talk about it as on an ongoing basis, but house church and having a place to come to ask the question, to find out together, to be in a position where you're following this, because it's not all about A-line skirts and headscarves and stuff like that. Come on. But the thing is that he wants us to understand this, and the point is that we're pretty clear how evil and how nasty and psychotic individuals are in governments, and what they will allow to happen, and how people will get manipulated and lied to. Who is the father of lies? Yep, it's Satan. And so, we can do podcasts until we're blue in the face, but unless people will listen to this and go, wait a second, why are these two people talking like this? Why are they so clear about it? And the reason we're clear about it is because the only thing I can say is, well, we've read the Bible for ourselves and joined lots of dots, whether it's inside the Bible. And for me, that's why I've got this the rabbit hole thing I'll talk about next week. But looking at things that are not mainstream, and how they are connected, and why me looking at those, figuratively speaking, unconnected things has established my faith even more, because I join dots in a certain way. And I think for so many people, believing in God is one thing, but living it's different. To many people, living it means meeting up for a drink. Glass of wine, nothing wrong with a glass of wine, but meeting up for a drink. Still going through all the grief, still not knowing you're free, still not knowing you can't sit, still not knowing that. And so it just becomes, well, this is what I do. Mum and Dad did it. I said this last week, parents do it and people follow their parents. They just go through the motions every week, because people are, we as humans are creatures of habit. So we just go do the same thing every week. instead of looking for something new every week and trying to work out, well, what's going to work, what isn't going to work. How can I change? What can I read? What can I find out? All this kind of stuff. And I think that I think that there is so much unspoken or unlearned information about being a believer that I kind of see it as it being deliberately withheld. And I don't want to say lazy. I don't really want to say... People do read, but don't read. People are quite happy to watch something in small snippets, like YouTube shorts.
Yeah,
quite happy with that.
Everything's instant, isn't it?
It has to be short. No dwelling. It's got to be like, give it to me now. Give it to me now. And if you go, well, have you got an hour? I'll just have a chat with you for an hour. Oh, no, I'm not going to do that. It's too long. And you think, I don't know how to break this to you guys, but God wrote through other people this book, and it's a couple of 1,000 pages. It's pretty long, and it's written as in writing and words and stuff like that, and it takes a while to read that kind of stuff, and there's a lot there. We just finished Revelation, and now we're back on Genesis. So it's part and part. We just read it every day. But the thing is if you want to learn this stuff, you've got to read it. And people go, I haven't read anything since I was at school. Well, it's about time we started again. Because you're not going to get it. It's not like that Keanu Reeves film, Johnny Mnemonic, where he gets a USB stick and puts it in the back of his neck and downloads all the information and carries it around with him.
If only.
You can't do that. So the point is that we've been given this kind of instruction to you have to learn this way. I'm telling you, learn it this way. It goes in, you read it again, and it gradually goes in. You start to live it. And then when you're doing house church and being around people that are also reading similar same stuff and can live out what it says to be a believer. And the things that church say and do are not congruent with living as a believer. And that's what the problem is. It's like, I'm not doing that. We're talking about, so you go to church and you've got these different people with different gifts, and you've got someone that does hospitality. So they're straight in there, aren't they? Straight away. I want you to come to the hospitality team. I want you to do teas and coffees with me. And you come in, because I've got a passion for this. I love doing teas and coffees. I want you to come do teas and coffees with me. You go, I'll let you know. And then someone else says, oh, you're new. Oh, come on, welcome. Oh, come to be on the welcome team with me. Well, I love doing welcome. We go, oh, yeah, I'll let you know. And you can see you've got the evangelism team, you've got this team, that team. That I just want to be me. I don't want to do you. I want to do me. I don't know what me is yet. And so there's always that kind of everybody trying to impose their thing on somebody. And it's like, no, I'll just be me. I don't know what me is just yet. I'm sure I'll be told. I'll work it out or whatever. And this is where I think I'm sure there's like some critical point where people go, do you know what? I've had enough of this. I'm not going anymore. It gets to that point, you go, I'm not getting anything out of this. It's a waste of time. I'm not going. And it stops. And I'm not being... I actually think that's the objective. The objective is to get people out of church. It's not to get them in. You think it'd be... Of course you think, well, of course we want people to come to church. No, you don't. Not if you're Satan.
Exactly, yeah. It's who is running the joint in a way, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's a difficult one for lots of people, and I think that the only way you can kind of want to get to the bottom, but understand the core of what this is about is, if you look at the beginning of Acts, and 3,000 of them got baptized. That's a lot of people getting in the water, but then they learned about everything else.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't have the Bible then, but then they learned about. So it's about understanding that he wants you free from this, the end game, because the end game is very hot if you don't get baptized. I mean, it's like, and it's not just hot for a brief period of time, it's continuously hot. That's how the expression is of being separated from God and experiencing his wrath for the rest of eternity. I'm not up for that at all. But that's what people are, that's what's going to happen to people. And that because you're responsible for your own salvation, you got to read it. You can't do it vicariously. You can't do it through anybody else. You've got to do it for yourself. And there's elements of responsibility with that. And then you have to look at it and go, would you want to roast in hell as well as all your family and kids and grandkids and so on and so on? It's perfectly legitimate question. Are you up for that? Or do you want to, whether we're going to play harps or not, I don't know, but would you rather go and live with God and be with God for eternity? It's a choice. And when you start, wars, rumours of wars, you've seen all the stuff that's gone on, the whole change in woke and this and that and what they can and can't do to your kids, about your kids and all this. You think that there's nobody after you? Yeah, to get you on the dark side and keep you on the dark side. So there's a lot of effort out there, a lot of effort is put into doing this to humanity. No one's free from this. Everybody's a target, unless you are a born-again believer, because you can't touch you.
That's right.
So where are we on our list here? Let's have a look at the list. I mean, we didn't really do. What we'll do next week is, I think over the next few days, what we'll do is on the Standard, there's a page for the podcast. And when I get this posted up for the description, what we can do is we can mention what the Bible study might be and what the Bible question's going to be, because we'll decide that. Unless someone listening emails and says, actually, could you answer this question? And we'll do it anonymously. So we're not going to say, oh, so-and-so from Clacton-on-Sea, but such and such an address called. We're not going to do it. We'll do it completely anonymously. But if you've got a question, go to the Standard and email me via the Standard. And the address is thestandard.org.uk. And just email that, and then we'll answer your Bible question. And I think that'll. And if we don't hear from anybody, that's fine. We'll just do one ourselves.
Yeah.
And we'll do that. And then also on there, we'll get one of your publications. If you want to do that, one of your and we'll talk about one of your publications. And you have to tell me which one you want to do, because then I'll have to read it.
Yeah.
do a small one first, because I can get really into it.
Do the very smallest one.
And I think, because I really think that, at the end of the day, there's lots of things we can do, but my view is kind of to make this more like a magazine, if that makes sense, a magazine type podcast with different subjects. And if we've got comments from people, even people listening, would you just prefer a podcast, or do you want to see a video podcast? What do you prefer? Let us know. Email us and let us know. because it's you know we've got everything here basically, but we thought that we start off with a normal podcast first and see what the appetite was really, and if you want to, we might do a one-off kind of hi, here we are, because setting it up, we could do it in the studio, the other studio, and sit there and broadcast that and just record it, or we could do it live. I mean, which strikes fear into people's. But yeah, we'll just play it by ear. But the main thing is, if you've got a question that you haven't been able to get an satisfactory answer, or you're not quite sure who you should ask the question of, send it in and we'll answer it for you. And then that way you get two opinions then. Two's better than one. And also, so what I'll also do is I've got the different segments, and so we've got. I'm not going to read them out, but I'll put these on the podcast page so people can see what all the segments and all the elements are to everything that I might have mentioned this right at the beginning, but what all the different things we're going to look to cover over the next weeks and months and so on. And so if anyone's got, and if we mention that on a regular basis, if you've got your own question, email it in and we'll answer it. And we'll take it from there. So I think it's about an hour, just hour and 10, hour and 11. Didn't run out of things to say. Well, somehow I don't think
there's loads to say. It's just drip feeding because it's too much. It is one of those things that there are so many aspects. Whether it's family forgiveness. I'm reading off the list here. Family forgiveness, email, free will, God, healing, house church, love, money, patience, prayer, religion, Satan, sin, the Bible, the big picture, the cross, words, worship, business, faith, health, loads of stuff. And there has to be a take on it. And what I do business wise, and the reason for the standard was it's not a generalised faith website. It's for business and for life, but it's for business because there's loads of websites out there for just like general faith stuff. But for the standard, it's written specifically for business owners. I mean, you couldn't get any more narrow than that of having business owners that actually believe in God. But the thing is that far better for them to understand and have someone to speak to and to talk to, because your pastor or a priest no idea about running a business, not a clue. And I've got lots of T-shirts, from, divorce or being in business, losing businesses, even losing a child. But there are things that have happened to me that I can speak not into people's lives, but share with what happened, but also be a walking kind of testimony of knowing, of showing that there is a way out. That's kind of the critical thing. I've sad as it is, seen people that have completely fallen apart with just a visit from the VAT man. Yeah. And more, So that's it. The main thing is that we're here and we kind of want to be vocal. And the Bible does have answers on everything. That's 100%. That's the point, isn't it? So.
Okay. Well, it's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from him.
Bye for now.